is formulated on the idea of deconstruction and decomposition. Additionally, highlights elements through an original podcast series, together with performances of live, pre-recorded, and live streaming elements of composed pieces. The concept of breakdown D is simply a furthering of what could be experienced in different processes of nuance and contemplation, and is simply a furthering of what could be experienced in different processes of nuance and contemplation. These concepts, experiences will tackle the contexts of traditional hearing, formative settings, and collaboration with more. So with the tackle of the context of the traditional hearing, performance settings, and collaboration with more of an in-depth feeling of And so what's actually is rather than purely produced and product. Okay, so we're about to start this. Guy here, and I am your host. We are here on Dpod, where we strive to be a communicative platform where developing artists and artisans discuss and shed light on the artistic aesthetic and influence of the art vision as seen in today's society. Today we have Kay Zhang in the studio.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Kay, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences as growing up as a child?
Well, I'm a classically trained musician, and I started playing the saxophone when I was about 10 years old. And I was brought up in a non-musical family, but grew up listening to pop culture, for examples of like Michael Jackson, the Beatles, Kenny G, Celine Dion, just to name a few. And fortunately, I was given the privilege to take up music as a form of an education and in like Asian culture, and it was kind of expected to have music incorporated in the learning process. But I wanted to also go outside of like the traditional Asian family through like just resulting to play violin and piano. And so I decided to pick up the saxophone.
Okay, and so from a very young age, you kind of experienced something about your identity, and it's like, can you talk more about it and explain further with this?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while to decide what I wanted to do exactly. I was admitted into an art school when I was young and did the traditional way of learning music, history, applying for competitions, and participated in music examinations. And I went further to continue my studies at the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music and studied saxophone in classical music.
Okay. And so what happened
then? I packed my bags and went to France and studied with Marie-Bernadette Charrier in Bordeaux for 2 years. And that was kind of like a turning point for me.
Okay.
In what I wanted to do and through intense music training. I was also inspired by her like teaching approach, but also that she formed an ensemble and dedicated her life to collaborate with her musical colleagues and work together to form their voice and repertoire and also their identity in what music is.
Okay, and so what happened?
And I wanted something similar, but something extra. So after 2 years, I decided I needed like another change in terms of city and lifestyle.
Okay, right. So kind of sounds a little bit risky, and you wanted to kind of take charge and find something different to explore. So what triggered this, and where did you go?
I took a chance to go to Zurich, and it was a little bit of a coincidence as I wanted to go and study in Basel.
Okay, right. And why Zurich?
And for me, the teachers and mentors are very important in the learning process, but I also needed to seek a place or an institution where I could go further in exploration, as I wanted to also start creating my performative career, but also learning from other disciplines and having different exposures of art platforms, I think. And I had no expectations, and I realized actually it was one of the best decisions I made for myself, for my lifestyle, for career, and I mean it's still a developing kind of thing, and future projects with other people.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. And so, where in Zurich exactly, or like what kind of school or institute?
Yeah, the institute, Zurich University of the Arts, has given me those opportunities, enabling to push boundaries, and a resource to create, meet, and engage within all different art disciplines. I think it also takes oneself to also really go further and try and seek out these opportunities and question and engage, and yeah, I mean it's the place is a unique art utopia.
Okay, wow. Sounds like a lot of reflection has happened, and finding out what you want in one's life. Can you kind of talk a little bit more about your practical research or the processes and what you were interested in? Like,
I would like to guide you through this segment called Depod, where I would like to showcase you through a formulated performance program, and where you will hear different versions of myself highlighting different topics and subjects about performance, interpretation, and decomposition. Depod comes from the developing concept about decomposition, taking existing compositions, extracting and dissecting them through a podcast segment, along with visuals and a live rehearsal setting.
Okay, and so through this subject of like decomposition, can you kind of state like how you emphasize calling upon your own practice, and how you kind of incorporate this critical engagement and in a way that is integral into your working methods through performance, perhaps?
Yeah, so through this program, you will have the possibility to embark on what every musician does before learning a piece. Get a different approach about questioning quality control of interpretation, visual landscapes, and audio awareness. You will also hear pre-recorded material, which will provide you to evaluate and decipher which will be put together with visuals. The idea is to take what you see visually as not always what you hear. The choice and interpretation is left for the audience to take in, and what you perceive, and question whether that is produced as real or fake, pre-recorded or live.
Great. So you've compiled a list of pieces that has a particular element you would like to highlight. So let's have a listen to the first example, shall we?
Hello is an audio-visual piece in which the projection serves as a score to be interpreted by the ensemble. Number 1. The next hello and the glasses are the two most important gestures in the piece. The glasses are supposed to have a signal characteristic, supposed to be clearly recognizable in the fast progressions of events, but the sound should not be too alarming or piercing. The best approach for the piece? Choose the sounds for each icon. Rehearsing your resulting work. Rehearse with the ensemble, hierarchical versus individual. The original of the piece was written in 2004. There is a new high-quality version of the video together with Alexander Schubert, which replaces the old version. It has a better quality and is brighter. I have chosen to decompose and break down this piece for you today. It's an element I have chosen to focus on my project. On to outline what the input and a question of interpretation of this piece that requires so much detail and instruction. Stay tuned for 2 more of the piece. The piece has a variable instrumentation and can be interpreted by ensembles in different ways. This leaves a lot of freedom and possibilities. The overall sound of the piece is intense and energy-driven. It should not be a chamber music piece, but a forward-going pop electro-rock piece. The electronics take and processing should be run by, and this role should be treated as an instrument. Kudos to Leander. Instruments should be well amplified and form a good mix with the word tones. The icon sound symbol should be powerful and strong. The definitions of decompose is to separate into components or basic elements. 2. To cause to rot, to be broken down into components. Disintegrate, to decay, rot or petrify and break down into simpler constituents. On it, it's always subject to change. This is also a self-reflection of what makes us break, what is the limit in pushing to the edge, this emotional need, physical and mental need to break everything down. And I mean, we live in a society where functionality of the brain is constant. Can we ever take the time to strip away and take a closer look into the multi-layers of what creatures from the world, what lies in between to create this recurrence? Can we define what we see to what we hear? Can we handle all the information that is displayed in a newsfeed in search of what is true and what is fake?
In order to transform its visual parts and to finish it visually and to sell it to you. I mean, what's all that fuss about copyright anyway? Yeah, and if that deal isn't right for you, of course, we can also discuss about a ransom for reviving Alexander Schubert. But please, please, don't start below 100,000 euros. I mean, I have to live off of something as well. Yeah, here's my contact. Call me. I look forward to hearing from you and enjoy the last sounds.
Why and should we put ourselves in these situations?
So now let's die.
There's nothing to die for, no?
Is nothing to die for, nothing to fight for, so
For nothing, there is nothing to show.
to die for now.
So okay, with the next piece, you talk about, so this next piece, the essence of having everything laid out and this transparency of kind of like the recording studio process, and so you did a recording of Hoffmann Alonso's So Fucking Easy. And the underlying of what the audience doesn't see during the recording studio process, like the rehearsals, the discomfort of being put on the spot, the creation process of like reading the score for the first time, and playing the parts and kind of making mistakes, and also not knowing the people, right? So, and then you were also like presented by putting together all the pre-recorded material from the musicians who came together to form in an ensemble and recorded the piece as kind of like a rock pop concert recording session. Is that right? And so like the editing process and compiling all the different takes we did, or that you did actually, and presenting it to the audience to see what the kind of end result of the final product would be. And so maybe let's have a listen to how it is supposed to sound like.
It's 702 the up. It's ABC FM. Classics. Jazz.
Gee whiz, what are you eating there? It's Grandma's Boobs cookies. Say, these taste just like Grandma's boobs.
And now a word from our sponsor.
D-Pod!
You are back, and you are listening to D-Pod. We have Kay Zhang in the studio today, and we are here to discuss and move on what are the major influences through practice. So let's talk about the new discipline, that a term that the Welsh composer Jennifer Walsh has adopted over the last years, and the terms like share the common concern of being rooted in the physical, theatrical, and visual, as well as musical. Pieces which often invoke the extra musical, which activate the non-couleur. The inheritance of Dada and Fluxus and situationism. So the inheritance of this, and it's being written when Dada and Fluxus situations have aged well and are universally respected. So with the next piece called The Blutige Schaffner by Robin Hoffmann, it talks of elements and influences of Dadaism. And the title, The Blutige Schaffner, it means control, derailment. This could have also been the name of a punk band. For example, like the Dead Milkmen or the Gorilla Biscuits. Well, anyway, the title of an experimental surrealist film also. And the title invites confusion. Is a profession being vilified, or has Agatha Christie's murder on the Orient Express finally been adequately set to the music? I don't know. I mean, the title continues in the tradition of Dada. Absurd. Building tradition was definitely kind of not what the Dada movement wanted. I mean, Dada wanted life. To blur the boundaries between art and life, and to fight art with the means of anti-art in order to reunite art with life. But Dada failed. Instead of this disintegration of art, it accomplished a new definition, an extended notion of art. The Blutige Schaffner wants to be art and thus exists in contradiction to its predecessors. It shows only the wish for vitality. The expansion of the vital, that is the derailing, the tendency to come back to art, or the control. I mean, you can really, it appears like kind of the phantom of
the chosen instruments presented themselves as an articulation apparatus, whose organs and their constitution create sound and color. They form the battery for musical expression. Through them, the music is able to speak. The form is self-contained. Throughout the entire work, articulation derived from speech gestures, the immediate acoustic utterance of a human voice opens as aggregate of themes that will engage within further compositions, and only touch upon here. The composition, which is constructed of heterogeneous parts, is made accessible through the relationship between controlled passengers to eruptions beyond the limits of music, and the instrument of system and refusal therefore. The form is self-contained, a funnel-shaped form. Between brutal sound walls rests the center of the piece, a section in which the saxophonists play without a mouthpiece.
Will be by Francois Sarhan. Okay, so shall we look at the partition? Well, let's go through it and yeah, let's just see. If I know how to do something, why? Why am I?
In music, unconsciously, we always have to play different roles, whether it's mastering a feminine type of melody or structure or harmony. It goes for our musical history, however,
I don't really understand. Can you explain a bit more?
bringing theatrical structures and forms to music is something we don't as musicians really consider. What the painting
how to do
is
something.
an art.
Why? Yeah, can you just go further?
Our practice, however, it complements it hand in hand.
I do the thing.
We need to step out of the structure of musicians and normal musical forms. But it's more of a way to reenact and showcase another point of view and listening experience and
Okay. If I know how to do something, why am I to do it?
But don't you think we should just play music because you like to perform and play music, you know?
They play themselves, it's not very good idea.
If I know how to do something, why am I to do it?
Like, you keep analyzing it. Doesn't it take away the performative aspect of what music actually should be?
It's getting better.
If I know how to do something, why? Why am I to do it?
I think for me, not just about performing. I mean, I think we train practice and make so much music. There's a palette of how music should be listened to and how it should be performed in certain ways.
Okay.
We also go to
I know
concerts.
how to do something. Why? Why am I to do it?
Yeah, we go to concert expecting to hear what has been produced. Can we artists again result of the pieces, what are considered produced products?
It's in there, yeah.
Do you know better, Echo?
Well, if I know how to do something, why am I to do it?
Yeah.
That's good.
having already structured material form but play freely according to the actor?
Can you actually say the difference, please?
Anyone?
But which version do you like better? The first one?
No.
Or the second one?
Yes! Oh! These days, technology has taken a lot of the creativeness and perhaps the accessibility through our listening experience. Like listening platforms such as SoundCloud,
YouTube.
And Vimeo.
What is your take on this?
But I think it's important to question what we want to hear in the end.
No. What is the process of making music and licensing when you can just
Yes!
Listen to a recording on
YouTube.
or SoundCloud?
Do we need to visually see what's really going on?
Oh! Why do we always reproduce the same material in the same concert setting?
But how can we enhance a product by dismantling it to relearn the processes of our production?
No.
Do you think we should introduce different art disciplines into our performances?
Yes! Oh!
But I would like to create a platform for performative experience and to highlight these different topics and questions to people.
No.
Yes!
I would also like to try something you don't get to see often.
Listen.
Or experience.
Or
Oh! Maybe you do that, but within your own bubble or your own four white walls.
But after all, it's about making a process and trying to utilize what we already do to enhance our self-worth, knowledge, and further ourselves to communicate and discuss what we do.
No.
Yes! Oh! So what do you think we need to bring in now?
But we need to have translations that have been produced by the past and presented in the now to translation, and we can understand what the first text and
No.
What
are the focuses on artistic practice? Can you?
yes! This is to compare how we see things, how we interpret and why we put ourselves in this self-reflecting analysis. The question of what?
Oh, now we expect to hear, what we expect to listen to, and what we expect to experience when we see performances.
But
Why do you think that?
No.
To particular difference from the president products.
Blurring distinction between artist and audience, body and mind, art life.
Yes!
Why do you think that?
Now we speak! It's important to question what we hear and ask about the presentation of it.
But why do we always reproduce the same material in the same concert setting?
No.
How can we
Yes! These are just some of the questions I ask myself. When I go to typical classical and contemporary music concerts, what and how?
Now can we bring more to stage than just good musicianship?
But what do you think the audience should try and engage themselves with?
I think the people who critical engagement of the people inside the process.
Yes! I try to apply this kind of thinking to my working method through experimentation, self-reflection, and also reproduction.
Oh! I think having come from a...
Yes! And how to work?
Oh! To be able to execute.
Truth yourself. Choose a interpretation and
Yes! Have a second what and what perform.
Oh!
So choose yourself. Aim to showcase this now.
What were the trigger for this?
to bring up the experience of the musician to the
Oh! For this reasoning.
Speak the truth yourself.
Was the rest we used to see?
Yes!
Continuing the statement, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh.
Your truth, you speak the truth yourself. And how if we don't?
No.
And
You found the truth
Yes! And translate what was and how it was performed during the time.
Oh, unless
Speak
we...
the truth yourself.
No.
Oh!
Then it's another story.
Yes!
Oh.
But is this all we have time for? Well.
We'll be presenting another.
Stay tuned for more.
Oh! The truth?
But is this all we have time for? Oh, well.
I think
Yes! We can.
Oh! Speaking the truth?
But Kate needs to finish her master project.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
Oh!
Can we stop?
Speaking the truth?
But
well,
Yes! Oh!
Can we stop?
Speaking the truth?
but
well.
Yes!
is proudly sponsored by you, and thanks for listening. Thank you to the sound and producing crew, Leandro Gianni and Leo Collin, Collective International Totem for their contribution and adaptation. Leo Collin, Claudia Casanova, Kay Zhang, Darius Singer, Florian Kobe, and Michelina Chan for her time-lapse videos. A big thank you and special guests of Ensemble du Bout du Monde, Don Borcaio on baritone saxophone, Kay Zhang on alto saxophone, Noah Mick on soprano saxophone, and Canton Darico on tenor saxophone. Special shout out to the musicians who participated in the recording session: Florian Kobe, Guillaume Toraval, Anna Beretz Menendez, Ruge Senaga, and Kay Zhang. Our media crew, Alicia Olomos Ochoa and Katia Ley. Mentoring and sponsors, ZHDK, Lars Merklusch, Hermann Alonso, Alexander Schubert, Francois Sarhan, Robin Hoffmann, and Nicolas Tzortzis. Until next time, I am Kai, and we are departing out.